Hi, Haley. So nice to have you here. Well, welcome
Thank
everybody
you.
to From the Ground Up podcast. I have the privilege to have Haley with me. I've been following her a few years now, maybe 3 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's cool.
since you started
That's a long
when you
time.
were with Heart of Dating. I think back I have been listening to you and seeing your journey online, so I thought it would be great to talk to you and get to know you better and share your story and what God has done in your life and where are you at right now.
Yeah, so I started, I don't even know. I'm like, how do I introduce myself? I never know. So I'm Hailey Kenyon. I'm a now a model, actress, and I do like UGC content. In the last couple years, I've done pageants as well. So I've gotten to be Miss Vacaville, which is my hometown, and then Miss California International. And my platform or the cause that I advocate for is all about healthy relationships and helping women come out of domestic violence relationships and to heal and to really find themselves. I have been a Christian my whole life, but it hasn't been an easy journey at all. And so I've been through a lot of things, a lot of traumas in the last decade or so that have shaped me as a young person. So I have a real passion for mental health and healing and faith and really just empowering people to become their authentic selves in a really balanced and holistic and practical way. So I hope that covers most of
Yeah,
it.
that is a lot. I'm sure, right, that all of those things had a
Yeah.
process in your life.
Yeah.
Not everything happened at once. So
Hmm.
that's what I want this podcast to be for us to share stories where we can uplift people and let people know that we're not alone. Thank God for social media for the good stuff that remind you
Right.
that you're not alone and
Yes.
that there's people that have found freedom and that are now on the other side of the journey. What has been something that has that you can share
Mm.
that you can testify of God?
Yeah, I have a couple different
Amen.
things.
Go for it.
One of them, I mean, my romantic
Mm-hmm.
relationships have shaped me a lot as a young adult from the time I was 17. And none of them have resulted in marriage yet. So I've learned a lot through dating along the way. So there's so many stories I could share within that, just
Mm-hmm.
of being in even abusive relationships or I was engaged. It's been almost 2 years now since it broke off, but I was engaged and had to learn a lot through that experience. Heartbreak is something that's so hard to go through. It is like out of everything I've gone through, it's the most painful thing that I've had to
Mm-hmm.
endure. And it's not something that I ever wanted to go through. Like when I was in high school, I was like, I'm finding my husband in college, I'm getting my MRS degree, and I'm moving on. Like I never even saw it as a possibility for myself. And even I remember like my first boyfriend, one of the things I would always say is like, "Oh, I'm so glad I just met my person at 18 and I don't have to date
Mm-hmm.
ever again." It's like, okay, that was a joke, you know. But that kind of pain I think has been something that I've seen God come so near to me. And you know that verse where it says like God is near to the
Mm,
brokenhearted.
yeah.
And in those times when someone that you love so deeply, when that relationship is broken, and experiencing Jesus. Sorry, I have an injury, so I'll just get used to this. And God, like when God comes near in those moments, and He's used every single heartbreak to refine me and actually to teach me things and make me more of who He created me to be. It's not been a fun refining process, nor one that I would have chosen, but it is something that I'm grateful for and I can appreciate because of the deep pain and yeah that you have to depend on God in those
Yeah.
moments because it's really isolating
Yes.
too when you lose that kind of relationship with
Mm-hmm.
somebody. I mean, people get it. We've all been through breakups and I know it's kind of a universal experience for a lot of people, but it is also very isolating because you lose the person often that you're closest with that knows you the best. And I've heard it said that it's one of the hardest things to grieve because you're grieving somebody who's still alive. There's really no like closure or finality to it. And so that requires a lot of trust in God that He has better for you or He's working out a redemption story or whatever it is for you. It's just a complete surrender and
Yes.
trust. Like you cannot control another person and you can't always control a lot of circumstances. So heartbreak has been one
Mm.
thing that has really shaped me and just my depth in my relationship with
Yeah,
God.
I can totally relate to that because I've been through it.
Mhm.
I was engaged in my 20s.
Oh, Oh my God,
Yeah, it's the
amazing.
first time I'm sharing. My closest friends know about this. It was hard because I was in that relationship for 9 years and it was abusive.
Mm,
But because I grew up also
mm-hmm,
in kind of that environment, it was
mm,
hard to leave. Only the grace of God got me
mm-hmm,
out of it. And I am so grateful that that happened. Like heartbreak and that verse that you
mm-hmm.
said, God is near the brokenhearted. It's so
Yeah.
relatable to me. I don't even count that as a relationship. That it's not part of my
Yeah.
life anymore. But I'm learning through it, and I'm learning that God is healing me and helping me for when that right
Mm-hmm.
person comes. I
Yeah.
can totally relate to that. That's why when I follow you and hear your stories, it's very relatable in a lot of areas.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know we had that in
Yeah,
common. And 9 years is a really long time to be with somebody. So
yeah.
I can't, I mean, I get it. But yeah, my relationship wasn't that long. So I'm sure what was like the healing process?
Ooh,
Do you think the healing process took longer because it was a longer
yeah,
relationship?
yeah. It took longer because I was younger, and when all
Mm-hmm.
of that happened, I didn't have the resources that we have right now. I didn't
Yeah.
know until maybe 5 years later I was able to recognize what that person was doing to me and why I was being this way, why I couldn't open myself up because I
Mm.
thought this was the person for me, even though I knew
Yeah.
it wasn't, because it was by the grace of God that I said, Lord, if this person, I was engaged and everything, I said, Lord, I know he's not the man for me, but there's no way I'm leaving him. I don't have the strength
Wow.
to leave him. I can't do it on my own. Only you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Only you have to do like a supernatural thing for me to break up with him.
Right.
And God did it. He brought to light so many things, and God put his tough daddy hand there and saved me out of it.
Wow. Was that what the turning point was? Did you like find out
Yeah.
a bunch of
Yeah, I
things
found
and
out a
that
bunch
that
of
gave you the
things. Yeah.
strength to walk away?
And
Wow.
it was the only way that I was able to walk away. Like God literally
Yeah.
moved everything. Within that same week, I remember at my church going to the altar and saying, I can still can feel that prayer that you make, which it's with all your heart, your mind. You're like, Lord, there's no way I'm leaving him unless you do something.
Mhm.
If you don't want me to marry this
Yeah.
person, you do something because I'm gonna do it.
Oh my
I'm gonna do it.
gosh.
And
Wow.
God did it. But even like that, even when He did it, I was still mad at God. You see, right?
Yeah, that makes
I was
sense.
still mad.
Yeah.
I still wanted it my way. I still, at some point, wanted to try again. And I
Mhm.
think that has been something that I've dealt with also later on with when I met other people or I knew they were bad for me. I kind of wanted to show myself to them, like, look at me.
Yes.
So I
Yeah,
am learning that I don't have to prove myself to anybody. But it's
exactly.
taken me
Yeah.
all these years to learn that. And
It's a process.
it was a long process. And
Mhm.
yeah, but I didn't know all of this until I had to go through other, not relationships, but meeting people, going on dates,
Yeah.
getting to know people. I mean, they've hurt, right? When they reject you, if you want to use that word, it hurts my ego, that part of me, but why? But then I go
Mhm.
back and thank God for friends too. They're like, no, it has nothing to do
Yes.
with you. It's just you're not meant to be, and God has the right person for you. But it's been a long process, and thank God for, like I said, for social media that you can kind of see
Mhm.
resources, and then also therapy that helps a lot to identify the root of the cause, right? And of course, the first one, Jesus. I don't know what I will do. I think about it, I'm like, I don't know what I will do now
Right.
without Jesus, coffee, and the gym and therapy.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the recipe. That is so crazy. So I prayed that same prayer.
Hmm.
So my thing was like I remember just being so confused and so like I just felt constant like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have
Hmm.
peace, but I didn't know why. And so I had prayed. I was like, God, like I don't know what's going on, but I just need a
Hmm.
supernatural illumination of truth was like my exact words. And it was like 4 days later, this whole just like can of worms opened.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's it. Like that, I'm
Yeah,
done. There was no, everything changed and everything shifted at that point. And so I really relate to that. And I think it's so cool that God does show up in
he
that way
does.
because when, I don't know, for me, that's just like whenever there's clarity, when it's easy to see, like it's easier to move. And I don't think that's being doubting or anything like that. But I think we learn from those experiences. And then maybe the next time we could see the red flags a little
Hmm.
bit sooner or ask different questions. But I just think that's so cool when God does that and reveals things to protect us because I'm sure like, I'm sure you feel the same way, but I look back now and I'm like, wow, God, like you really saved me. Like if I had actually gone through with being married, like that would have changed so many things in my life and it could have been dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just so grateful that he did answer that prayer. And even though it wasn't what I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't want to find out those things. And I was very much similar to you where I'm like, okay, you're my person. Like if I'm about to be your wife, like I'm in it to win it. And yeah, so to have that like level of commitment, like it was an only God kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like only God could have revealed everything in the way that it happened. So yeah, that
Yeah.
is
That is
crazy.
that prayer is so powerful. I don't know
It's,
if you've
yeah, be
seen
careful.
those memes when it says when you pray this prayer, it's like the quickest prayer God answers.
That
He
one.
hears that one all the time, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
God is so good. To me, when I like somebody and it doesn't work out, I get sad, but then I remember, okay, God is saving me. He saved me from a bad one before, like
Yes.
a worse thing before. This is a
Mm-hmm.
little better. But then,
Yeah.
with the days, my friends, they
Mm-hmm.
remind me, like, no, God has done it in the past. He's just protecting you. He knows what's going on. So that has been
Yes.
very, very important for me to have those people in my life too that remind me of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that prayer and asking God to surround me with the right people,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
huge.
that has been just such a blessing. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, see, I never shared this before. Actually, the first time it's going to be out there.
Deal. That's a big deal. And it's just so cool, like when you do, because then you meet people who relate to your story as well.
Hmm.
And so it's a really powerful
Yeah, it is
thing. So
powerful. And
that's amazing.
these are the things that, like you said, we can relate and like bring,
Hmm.
help people get healing from that area.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then realize too, this has to do with other things in our lives that God needs to heal.
Hmm.
Everything
Yeah,
started.
everything's always
Hmm.
connected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything is connected. So it's been a healing journey for me from
Hmm.
different things.
Right.
Um, what I'm learning too is that you don't need to be completely healed for God to bring you your person.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a really common
Mm-hmm.
misconception, actually, especially even in Christian
Mm-hmm.
culture. And it doesn't make sense because, like I understand that we want to be healed and we want to be whole and we want to, have healthy habits and all of those things. But when you're dating and you're in a relationship with someone, things come up that don't come up when you're single.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think it also just like, one area for me that I've been like, okay, that doesn't make sense. So like all the 19-year-olds who get married, they were healed and whole and like ready. Like I don't know, it just doesn't seem. I think
Doesn't make
sometimes
sense.
like in Christianity we make it like a reward
Mm.
system or an obedience system, and it's really not, in my opinion, and from my like what I've learned in the last few years. Like I don't think that way anymore, and I really just think it's about embracing our process. And people make decisions all of the time, but I'm super grateful to be, I'm 26, and so I'm still like young, but I'm not a baby. I'm not like 19
Yeah.
anymore.
I'm older.
Yeah, so I think I'm grateful that I've had this time to get to know myself so that I can show up, for that person. But I do think, you're right. You don't have to be 100% healed to make you. There's no like arrival or qualification or thing, and then God's like, okay, like now here's your reward, finding your
Yeah.
person. And so I think when we can enjoy that process and fall in love with ourselves and the way God made us and have a lot of compassion for ourselves, then that just makes whatever our future relationship is going to be even more rich. And we will attract that kind of person who is going to be that safe
Mm-hmm.
person, who's going to be gracious and kind and all of that. And I think that really is the bare minimum,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when we're asking for that, like that's not something that we like. No, it's not going to be a chore to
Mm-hmm.
be with us. And that's what I think you're made to believe when you're in an abusive relationship or you're with someone who's manipulative, that it's a chore to be with you, that you're a lot, that you're too much, all of those things. And for the right person, like you're not going to be too much. It's going to be, you're going to be able to give that love to yourself, and then they're going to mirror that back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, when I've been able to get really excited and hopeful about the person God has for me, it kind of takes the stress of it, of the healing to get to that point off,
Mm-hmm.
if that
No,
makes
that
sense.
totally
But
makes sense.
yeah.
And I agree with what you said about how maybe in the Christian culture, because I grew up a Christian too, I heard
Yeah.
different things, but the main one, you have to serve the Lord and then he will bring on your person, or you have to do this
Hmm.
100% and then he will bring on your person. What I'm learning and reading in the Bible, God has the time. It's his timing. He knows when that person is going to be in our lives. and he's working in
Mm-hmm.
them, he's working in us, so we can, when we come together, it will be a perfect union. In the
Mm-hmm.
Christian world, and not even the Christian world, you want someone that has the same purpose or mission, right? Or not necessarily the
Right.
mission, the same thing, but have the same passion or the same burning
Yeah.
to do the whatever God has called you to do. So I believe, now that I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking, actually, it's just something coming to my mind, is all of
Yeah.
this process will just help us, so when we come together, we can serve God in a way that said, yeah, we were refined in that process, and now we can both help you right now because we have
Exactly.
gone through it
Yeah.
alone. And then when God brought us together, we can be a blessing to other people, to other couples, to other younger people.
Exactly.
I used to believe, okay, no, I'm broken, I need to have all of this together. I used to
Mm-hmm.
feel like that. And but then my therapist,
Yeah.
he was telling me, no, you don't need all of that.
Right.
The right person that God has for you is not going to mind all of that. So he reminds me that. And it's just
Yes.
so good to have somebody like that in your life too, that you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, even growing up the Christian way that I grew up, a lot of the people didn't believe in therapy. It was like, no,
Right.
just pray it away, pray it out. But there are
Mm-hmm.
things that God has given the knowledge and the grace to other people that know how to deal with, or help you find the areas that you need healing.
Yeah.
I think we can't do it alone. Even
No.
Jesus had, his disciples, and he still went to the temple. He still did all of these things. Even being God, he had people around him for the mission that he needed to do. So if we need to go on the mission that God is going to give us, or is giving us at that moment, we need people too to help us.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Takes a
yeah.
village for sure. It really takes a
Yeah,
village.
yeah. So, yeah, that's what God has been working in me. You don't need to have it all
Mm-hmm.
together. It's His timing, and He knows. And as I see my life looking back, it is true. Everything that God has given me, every people I've met, the heartbreaks I had, all of them have helped me
Yeah.
to where I am right now. And now I can say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, I could have done better, but if that didn't happen, I wouldn't know I needed to do that better on the next time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell me, what have you done after that? Because I've known you
Mm-hmm.
when you used to be in Heart of Dating, and that's when I
Yeah.
first heard a little bit of your story. And then I see you're doing other things right now.
Yeah. So, okay. So, kind of after my engagement broke off, that was a huge turning point for
Mm-hmm.
me. And it was just such a miraculous thing in that, like, there was that illumination of truth. So then I, was able to, like, with my family around me and my, small group and friends, like, leave that relationship. And it was that healing process. It was almost like a supernatural healing
Mm-hmm.
with in so many reasons. Like God's hand was so in that I didn't there wasn't an extensive grieving period, even though it was like a wedding. Like my wedding dress was on
Mm-hmm.
the way, save the dates were sent out, everything was moving and happening, and it was a big deal. Like I was getting married. But the way that God, like, kind of just, I feel like he just scooped me up,
Mm-hmm.
and there was so much just healing in that moment that the process wasn't hard. There wasn't a lot of like deep heartbreak. So 2 months after that, I ended up competing in my first pageant, and I won the title of Miss Vacaville. And so that kind of like triggered me. I signed with my modeling agency. After that, I started pursuing acting and doing some more influencer type stuff, getting really involved in my community. And that was just a life changing time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started an internship program at a church and went through some really difficult things in that. Like you, I grew up in church, and I grew up with some just legalistic and really like limiting
Mm-hmm.
mindsets that made me live in a lot of fear of God, and I feel like really restricted my personality and who God made me to be. And I was, when you're like the good
Mm-hmm.
Christian girl, it kind of like shapes your identity. And so I've always had a dream to do modeling and acting, and I just, for some reason, like things I was taught growing up or different things I heard or comments people would say, I just felt like it wasn't something I was like allowed to want to do as a Christian, or that it was all going to be bad, or it was going to mean that I wasn't living for God if I wasn't, super involved in the church. And so I went through a lot of stuff with my faith and with church. And so I really by trial and error and just different things I did was doing therapy the whole time, coaching, just having conversations like this with
Mm-hmm.
people. And really the work that I did that was so transformative was self-compassion related
Mm-hmm.
work and really starting to get to know myself and to talk to myself like I would a friend. And so that coupled with some pretty intense therapy, because along my young adult years, I developed
Mm-hmm.
PTSD. So I had complex PTSD, and it was a real battle for about 3 years in my life. Just not knowing, there wasn't a lot of information about it that I learned before that point. And so I really had to kind of do a deep dive into the whole, like, what does it mean to have PTSD? What's trauma? What's a trigger? All of those different things. But what I've learned through all of it, my process has been very holistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just going to pray it away. Like, God will show up, and there are things that I can learn and tools that people have with
Mm-hmm.
therapy and EMDR and coaching and mindset work a lot of the times. One thing that I also had to learn was that it wasn't like, not everything was a spiritual attack
Mm-hmm.
on my life from like the devil itself. Like, part of it is just that I'm a human and I have a brain, and a lot of us have what you call like the inner
Yeah.
critic, or that negative voice in your head. And so when you realize, okay, this isn't some external attack, and I'm not crazy for thinking this way or beating myself up, and just recognizing those thoughts and correcting them, it's been huge. And so I've really transformed, not just through church or faith or Jesus, but it's been like a whole approach and journey that I've been on, even like different physical things, like doing a lot of Pilates or breath work or different things that just like embracing who I am as a person, mind, body, soul, spirit. That's been able to just open up a lot of different opportunities and put me on a path that I feel like is uniquely mine, and not something that's like just cookie
Mm-hmm.
cutter, because there is no cookie cutter plan for any of us. And I think it's so easy to kind of shrink yourself down, put yourself in a box, do the program, get the degree, whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong
Mm-hmm.
with those things if that's what you really want to do. But I've learned that I'm on my own journey, my own path, and there's a reason for everything.
Yes, there's a reason for everything. And
Yeah.
it's amazing that all of that brought you to now the things that you're doing with pageant. And I love
Mm-hmm.
California. So when I saw you were running for California, I was so excited. I was like, oh, I love
Ah,
California. That's so nice that she's doing that.
oh,
Yeah, I have family there.
yeah, it was so fun. Oh, really? You're on the East
Yeah,
Coast,
I live
right?
in Connecticut, but I have my
Okay.
relatives in Riverside and Redlands. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So I
nice.
go there. I try to
Yeah.
go there all the time to visit them, but it's just a little hard sometimes.
Yeah, that's a long flight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of
So,
travel.
yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, all of that, like you said, the therapy, and not everything is a demon. I believe in the spiritual world. I believe in warfare, but I also,
Mm-hmm.
like you, growing up in the church, sometimes there's a lot of different things that are said.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe there's people that get healed and free right away. I've seen it.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen it. I've experienced it. I have experienced
Mm-hmm.
healing. I've experienced,
Yeah.
deliverance. I've seen deliverance, experienced all of that. And I do believe this is spiritual world. But there's
Mm-hmm.
also the part that we're
Absolutely.
humans and that we have
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, we have feelings. There are those areas in our lives that require a part of us to take responsibility and say, I
Yes.
need to change my mind. And what you said about limited mentality, that is true,
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen it sometimes where you think that being a Christian means that you are not supposed to do certain things because that makes you a better Christian. When in reality, it doesn't work like that. God wants to use us in every area, and God needs
Exactly.
everybody. He needs people in different industries. People like you, now you're
Mm-hmm.
modeling, and I'm pretty sure you're a blessing
Mm-hmm.
to people there in that area. And they're a blessing to you
Yeah.
too, because they're helping you develop your gifts and the
Mm-hmm.
desires and the dreams that God has put in your heart to go and do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing
Exactly.
how God allows all of those things to happen in our lives. Like even me being here, I thought of this idea for so long, maybe 6 years,
There's
because I've had it. I had a friend, he passed away maybe like 3 years ago, and he started with podcasts. But before that, he used to say, you need to start one. And I never listened to him, but he had me on his.
mm-hmm.
And then I got, after that interview that he had with me, people called me like, "Oh, Esther, you need to start your own," And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And I think it was that false humility, because I didn't want to be out there. I was like, "No, I don't want people to see me and hear me.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't have anything to say." And but then this year, actually last year, started where I saw people doing it. people close to me doing it,
Mm-hmm.
my friends at church, and then other people that I've met. I saw they have their YouTube channels, and I said, what am I doing? Maybe I should just do it. Because if I don't do it, I'm gonna
Yeah.
die and I'm gonna be upset with myself
Right.
that I
Right.
didn't do
Yeah.
it. And what somebody told me, and I think I follow her. I stopped. You follow her too. I don't probably you know her.
Faith
Yes,
Armstrong?
Faith Armstrong. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I love
So
Faith.
I started joining her meetings once a week. Faith in
Yes.
Action.
Yeah,
So
those
I
are
joined
great.
and I had a call with her once, and she told me something that somebody else had told me before. She said, it's not about you. This is not about you, because God has called us
Mm-hmm.
to, it's for Him. It's not about you. It's for His glory. And if you feel that, if you think that's something you want to do, it's because God is putting in your heart for other people, not for
Right.
yourself, right? And that really stayed in my mind, and I thought about it, and I think about it all the time. And she
Yeah,
was right.
yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's so, and our brains are actually like wired for us to feel like when we step out into
Mhm.
things and we're seeing that it's not safe.
Mhm.
So we come up with all the excuses and oh, I don't know, do I have anything to offer? And so I think when you get to the other side of that, and also like knowing you have God in your corner, and I just believe that like God is such a big God
Mhm.
and he's such an expansive God that like how much like how cool is it that we get to partner with him
Mhm.
and create the things that he's put in our heart and make them come into reality, and that's us acting in his image, and it should look different and it should look unique for every single person because we've all been through different things
Mhm.
and we have different backgrounds and stories, and then we're able, sorry, those are my dogs barking. I had a feeling that was going to happen. They bark at everything that
Oh.
walks by, but in our uniqueness we're also able to reach different people.
Yes.
There's people that you can reach that are going to connect with you that might not connect with
Mhm.
me, and vice versa. And I think that's just such a cool thing. So when we are able to move past that fear of shrinking ourselves down and to just step out boldly in faith, like that's when I think we really start to see things and see how big and expansive God is. And you realize, oh, it wasn't that scary after all.
Yeah.
And God's not going to call you to something and then, just leave you
Mhm.
hanging. Like he's going to be with you the whole
Yeah.
time. So yeah, whenever I like am reminded of that perspective shift, like I feel a change in my body and I feel excited. And yeah, I just think it's so cool that that's what we can do. Like I think it's so
Yeah,
fun.
it is cool. And like you said, because I've seen it in other people too, whenever I do something I was afraid of, then God showed up and he was like, oh, you didn't do it alone. I was with you, right? But this
Yes.
is a very vulnerable place for me, because even sharing this, and I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna put it out there, and then I'm gonna be, oh my God, not everybody knows my story. But even doing this, asking God and trying to find how to do it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do it on my own and just learn. And then God
Yes.
is going to bring the people at the right time. Yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm like, okay, God, it's just you and I doing
Exactly.
this
Yeah.
together. And I'm excited. I'm like, this story that we're talking about right now, I know it can resonate with a lot of people, not just girls, because I know guys go through different struggles too, maybe the same, but they don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. Something that God was teaching me. There's so many things that are mostly religion, but not what God says. Because a lot of people get
Yeah.
hurt in the church and then they leave and they think that's God. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not God. Those were just people that didn't know how to portray God the right way. But we're not supposed to get mad and leave
Yeah.
God, because God, He wants everyone to come to Him, right? He wants no one to perish.
Right. Yeah. And that's why Jesus came,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Jesus came and disrupted the religious,
Yeah.
traditions of the day and gave us a different way. And I think so sometimes we make it just so much more
Mm-hmm.
difficult. Like we have Jesus. Like that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is the answer. Like we have victory in Christ already, and living from that place, I think, is so much lighter and freer than a lot of the bondage that we grow up from in church, or as wearing spiritual warfare as a badge of honor, or we weren't made to carry all
No.
that. Like we're just made to be a light and to have Jesus living in us and through us. And he talks about that so much when he talks about having a peace that surpasses understanding. Or a verse that's been coming up for me a lot lately is John 16:33, where it's like, I don't know, I can't remember the beginning of it, but like the end is like, but take heart, for I
Mm-hmm.
have overcome
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world. Like it's
Yeah.
done. It's a done deal. And now we get to just have fun and play and explore and be a light to people. I think it's just like life with Jesus should be so fun and enjoyable. And obviously there's going to be hard things, but I think there's a lot of cranky Christians out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And that's not, in my opinion, the best representation of
Yeah,
life with
no,
Jesus.
it's
So
not.
I'm really grateful that I've been through everything I've been through, been able to kind of like see those things for what they are and do the work to rewire my mind and my spirit to, be able to see Jesus clearly and to walk that out, even when it's, maybe doesn't feel like it aligns with what I was taught from a very young age.
It's true. Yeah, I can relate to that. And Jesus is the only way, and we don't have to look at people, because the Bible says just to look straight onto him and remember that he has promises for our lives that no one is going to take away, because he has promised those for us. And that's something that God reminded me yesterday. I said, Lord, I'm tired. I already listened to everything, but I want you to speak to me. And it happens that my aunt, she's a pastor. She got invited to go preach in Italy, and she sent her video. But in the church that she has in Peru, they don't have live stream or anything like that, so I never get to hear her preaching because they don't have the technology that we have here. It's a very small church, and it's her and some other people helping her. But because she got invited to Italy, I was able to listen to the Facebook live of her preaching. And she said something that she used to tell me when I was younger. She used to say, you should not be afraid, because God has already promised you something. Your promised land, it's yours. No one's going to take it. He has already given it to you. Nothing is going to stop that from happening, because you are in his will. So, and that brought such a refreshment to my mind and my soul. I said, okay, Lord, thank you so much. And I just started like weeping to God and saying, you're so good. You're so good. So yeah, he has those reminders for our lives that he needs to know all the details. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I could talk about this for so long, like 2-3
I know.
hours.
We could be here all night. I know.
I know. I'm like, I'm trying to keep it short, but then all of this will come up. So tell me what else you like to do, where people can find you, the resources that you have.
Yeah. So people can find me on Instagram at the Hailey Kenyon. And so there I do more of like my lifestyle type content. I like a lot of things like kind of just like lifestyle based. So fashion, daily life, wellness, like get ready with me type videos. And then I also have it's called Sound Mind Society. So I've been working on that for the last several years. So I have a season 1 of my podcast out, and that's on Spotify. And I'm going to be starting season 2 soon, doing more like interview style. Season 1 was kind of just me like talking about it and talking about different things like mental health. What does it mean to have a sound mind, and some practical things. But that's going to be growing this year as I'm getting some different trainings and things. So I do have that Instagram page. So I always say to go to my personal Instagram, the Hailey Kenyon, and then you can kind of find everything else from there. So that's kind of it. I have this little injury right now.
What happened to you?
I had surgery on my pinky earlier this week. I got cut by a piece of glass, and it actually cut into some of the tendons in my finger. So I had to have them repaired. So I'm kind of just down and healing for the next 6 weeks. So yeah, posting a little bit about that. And
yeah, I saw. I was like,
just healing in all the ways.
Yeah.
So unexpected, but even in things like this, I know that like God uses it for good. And so I'm seeing that, and just having that awareness even going into it, I think has helped. So
yeah, that's awesome.
A little bit more, and you can find stuff. Oh, I do have, it's called the Sound Mind Resource Library. So that is linked in my pages as well. But I've started putting together a resource of books and podcasts and workbooks and different things that have helped me. So when I talk about like the trauma stuff and the PTSD and therapy, different people that have really helped me, everything's in there. So I think it's a great resource free resource for people.
Yeah, I was checking out your page and all of that, reading a little bit about your stories. It's great stuff there. Yeah, I put it there so people can find you. What advice would you give to girls or women, I think, of every age that have gone through what you've gone through? Because we only spoke an area of your life, right? But I know you've done and experienced so many things. That and goodness of God too, and all of it is goodness at the end. All of it.
Yes.
What would be an advice that you'll give to young girls and maybe older, just women in general, about life, what life had taught you this 26 years, and how to trust God in those areas?
Yeah, I would say that just to have compassion with yourself and to know you're not alone. I think when you truly develop a relationship with yourself where you love yourself and you appreciate things about yourself, that really changes everything. And just knowing that God is working all things for good, and that everything is also temporary too, and that you can handle it. And that's, good things are temporary, bad things are temporary, but I think having that perspective, just an elevated, more of a bird's eye view perspective, it makes the things you're going through in the moment not seem as scary. And just, I think as women, it's easy for us to feel like we're the only one going through things, but we all experience very similar thoughts and feelings and fears. And just to know you're not alone. And so to be kind and gracious with other people. I know that was a lot, but those are just the little things that I know, even as a teenager and young adult, I really struggled with, mostly just being hard on
Mm.
myself, like really, really critical of myself. And then looking back and I'm like, oh, was so mean to her. Like she was doing her best and, she wasn't ugly or fat or whatever I told
Mm-hmm.
myself. But yeah, I think developing that personal relationship and speaking to yourself the way you would speak to a friend
Mm.
is huge. And when you can become your own advocate and your own best friend, that is really, really powerful. And I think in that, my relationship with God has strengthened too, because then I truly believe when the Bible tells me things like Jesus does love me and I'm worthy of his love
Mm-hmm.
and I'm worthy of good things. And so that was a huge shift for me that has made my life a million times better. That I hope all girls are kind to themselves and speak kindly about
Mm-hmm.
themselves and to themselves and really accept and embrace the abundant life that Jesus has for
Yeah,
them.
that's so true. And that's so important. I am experiencing that myself, learning to be compassionate with myself,
Mm.
that God loves me. Even looking at my pictures, and sometimes actually yesterday, so I saw a picture of mine and I said, "Oh, you're so pretty, Esther." And that came out from like a heart of that I wouldn't have not been able to say that to myself before. It brought a sense of freedom, and maybe some girls will say, or some people that don't go through this, "Oh, that's so silly. Why do you even think that?" But to me,
Mm-hmm.
it just brought such healing in my heart, saying, "Oh, I'm able to say that to her. I have to have compassion and talk to her because the way God speaks to her." And something that
Exactly.
has also been in my mind is lately, the Bible says that we were sinners, but now we're not sinners, we're
Mm-hmm.
saints. You're holy, you're a saint. You're not a sinner anymore because God has redeemed
Mm-hmm.
you. And we're also friends of God.
Mm-hmm.
So remembering that all the
Exactly.
time, it's just been a renewing of the mind every day. I think
Exactly.
as
Yes.
believers, we have to renew our mind every day because we're in
Mm-hmm.
this world, but not of this world. And even
Right.
the message, even the advice that we hear online, because now, like us, we sharing, but there's also people that are sharing things too, where we also have to be very careful and see
Mm-hmm.
if they're coming from the truth of God and the Bible, or it's just
Right.
human emotions or thoughts
Mm-hmm.
that are going to bring
Right.
us into our ego or into our own power and humanity instead of the love source of love,
Mm-hmm.
which is God. So that has been important for me as I go through this journey of growing and learning
Yes.
and identifying different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I agree.
Yeah, it was so nice to have you, Haley. I hope we
Yeah.
can do
Thank you
this
so much for
again
having
and
me.
maybe talk about other stuff too.
Yes, anytime. Let me know. I'm always down to
Yeah.
yap.
How far are you from Riverside, California? Is that on the other side?
I think yeah, so I'm in like near San Francisco, so
Mm.
kind of like the Bay Area. So Riverside is probably like a 7 or 8 hour drive. I was closer when I lived in San Diego. I was only like an hour and a half away from it.
I can have coffee or something.
Let me
I'll
know. Yeah,
drive.
I love Southern California and I like any excuse to get
I
down there.
know. I
So
love it there
let me
too. I
know.
love it. I want to
Yeah, it's
move there
so
sometimes, but
beautiful.
I love that
Yes,
area.
yeah,
It's just beautiful. The
yeah.
mountains, the
Nothing like it.
beach. I just love it. Thank you so much. This has been a blessing for me, and
Yeah.
I hope for you
Yeah,
too, and
thank you
for
for having
everybody
me.
that can listen and relate to these stories.
Love
Pray
it.
for this podcast, if you remember.
Of
Yeah.
course. I will.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm so proud of you for stepping out into this and sharing your story. And I hope it brings even you so much
Oh,
freedom
yes.
and purpose and healing and all of the
Yeah.
things. So, congratulations on
Thank you so
starting your
much.
journey. I'm
Yeah.
excited for
Thank
you.
you. I'm
You're
excited too. And
welcome.
yes, I pray the Lord uses this for my life too. I think that's the first thing that God is doing, using this for myself. Because as we help other
Yes.
people, He also
Yeah.
heals us and blesses us too.
Mhm. I
So
love
nice
it.
to see you, and I will keep in touch online. Thank you so
I'll see you
much. Bye.
online.
Have a good
You're
night.
welcome. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
You too.